chapter 1. So, chapter 1 of the book of Romans. As we've heard this update on the Life Care Pregnancy Center, as we heard this testimony that we wish the client would have been here, but I think Barbie did a wonderful job of sharing that testimony with us. We see how it impacts, how the center impacts the lives of those who are facing unexpected and unplanned pregnancies. Our hearts should not only be encouraged by this, but they should also stand convicted about what we, the church, can do to help mitigate and hopefully one day hopefully eliminate the issue of abortion that is such a pressing matter in our current culture. And I think we would do well to remember the Apostle Paul's words in the opening chapter of this letter to the Christians in Rome. It's in verse 16. If you'll look at verse 16 of Romans chapter 1, Paul writes this. He says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek." After expressing his desire to come to Rome to visit his brothers and sisters and to share the gospel of Jesus with the lost people of this great city of Rome, Paul speaks to his own conviction about the power and the purpose of the gospel message. In essence, I think that Paul is conceding the fact that nothing that he has to say, nothing that he has to give someone has the power to change their heart or to impact their eternity unless what he says and unless what he gives them is the gospel. For Paul, he fully expects to have a fruitful, a very effective ministry when he finally makes it to Rome. Not because he has faith in himself as a missionary and as an effective communicator. No, he has confidence, and that confidence comes from the fact that the message that he is committed to delivering contains within it the power to transform hearts and to bring people to salvation by grace through faith. And I wanted us to be thinking about Paul's words this morning because, as I'm sure we'd all agree, the Life Care Pregnancy Center, that is an incredible place and a very powerful, a very necessary ministry. This is a place where women and men can go when they experience unplanned or unexpected pregnancies and when they don't know their options. But what I think we have to consider is that perhaps not knowing their options, maybe that isn't the primary or the greatest deficit in their lives that needs to be addressed. Maybe what this person or this couple needs first and foremost is to know Jesus and to know his gospel message, or to have fellow believers disciple them, walk alongside them through this season. You see, when it comes to the topic of abortion in our state and in our country in particular, there are a number of things that we have the opportunity to do that can make an impact, right? We can vote. We can support legislation that protects the life of the preborn. We can also support and we can refer people to the Life Care Pregnancy Center. Those are good and important things that Christians should do. But we must not forget that politicians and laws will not change people. Social programs, medical services, those things by themselves will not change people. But the gospel of Jesus Christ, being proclaimed and testified to by the church, that is the one thing that has the power to change hearts and to change their lives and to alter their eternal futures. Barb mentioned this, but just over a week ago, the center hosted a luncheon where the guest speaker, he talked to us about what is most often missing in the Christian battle against abortion in this country. And his point was that if the church is not prepared, if the church is not equipped to share the gospel with and to disciple and to care for the increasing number of men and women who are facing unplanned pregnancies, then we can be sure that our secular culture will begin to disciple them on their pro-choice ideologies and their agenda. Whether we like it or not, everyone in the world is being discipled by someone or something. But how many people going through these unexpected, unplanned pregnancy situations, how many of them are being pursued by and actively discipled by the church? And it's that question which has prompted me to stand up here today and to tell us that if we really want to have an impact on the issue of abortion in this country and across the world, it isn't enough to just simply vote for pro-life leaders and for pro-life legislation. It isn't enough to encounter people in need and to just simply refer them to places like the pregnancy center. Yes, those are important things that we should be doing. But as we turn back to Paul's words in Romans chapter 1, we cannot be ashamed of, we cannot be afraid to share the gospel with those who are lost, dear ones. Because only the gospel is the power of God for salvation. And while the Pregnancy Center does a wonderful job counseling its clients and seeking to share with them the truth about Christ, the church absolutely cannot outsource to others the responsibility that Christ has given us of making disciples and teaching them to obey all that He has commanded them. Let me present this scenario to you. If a young woman or a young man, if they walked into our church this morning and they shared with us that they were in the midst of an unplanned pregnancy, how would we treat them? What would we say to them? How would we receive them and make them feel? Would we simply send them over to the center and hope that they can convince this person to keep their baby just for the sake of saving the baby's life? Or would we take the time and put forth the effort to find out if they know Jesus and if they have anyone in their lives discipling them and supporting them? Because the life of the baby may not be the only thing that is at stake here. The eternal life of the mother and or the father, that may need to be addressed as well. So if we found ourselves in that situation, what would we do? What would we say? You see, church, only we have supernatural answers for the temporal concerns that expectant parents are facing. But do we trust in God's power enough to lead with the gospel instead of leading with an opinion or a referral? As we soon walk out of those doors back into the culture and into the communities in which we live, I want us to think about what we can do both individually and corporately that will have the greatest impact on the issues of abortion, which is so relevant, so pertinent to our country. Yes, we can try to change laws with our votes, and we should. We can try to change minds by providing resources and options, which we should. But church, what we're commanded to do by Christ is to proclaim the good news to the lost and to make disciples so that God, by His power alone, might change their hearts. Are we ashamed of the gospel? Are we afraid that it doesn't have the power to accomplish what God promises it can accomplish? If so, I hope that we can remove that fear and that doubt today. And I pray that a ministry like the Life Care Pregnancy Center will now see this church as an ally, as a place that they can refer their clients to because they know that the gospel, discipleship, spiritual growth, support, and love, all of that will be found right here.